When people talk about big American SUVs, there are a few names that immediately come to mind. The Ford Expedition is one of them, the GMC Yukon is another. But there's one SUV that somehow managed to become the default choice for families, business owners, politicians, ranch owners, road trip lovers, suburban dads, and even celebrities who want luxury without buying something that looks too flashy. That SUV is the Chevrolet Tahoe. And honestly, the reason this vehicle continues dominating the American market is because it understands exactly what most SUV buyers actually want. People say they want efficiency and compact crossovers, but then they buy something massive with 3 rows. AV8 engine, huge cargo space, and enough road presence to make smaller cars disappear in traffic. The Tahoe has always represented that classic American philosophy of bigger is better. But what makes this SUV interesting is that Chevrolet somehow managed to modernize it without completely ruining what made people love it in the first place. The Tahoe didn't become successful overnight. Its roots go back decades, all the way to Chevrolet's truck-based SUV development during the 1990s. Before the Tahoe existed, Chevrolet already understood that Americans loved pickup trucks, but many buyers wanted truck capability with enclosed cargo space, more seats, and better comfort for families. That idea created a market that exploded over time. The first official Tahoe arrived in the mid-1990s, replacing the old Blazer naming for Chevrolet's larger SUV platform. From that point forward, the Tahoe became one of the defining American SUVs. And the formula was simple. Give people a truck frame, powerful engines, huge interior space, commanding road visibility, and enough comfort to survive long-distance travel across multiple states. It worked immediately because Americans were already emotionally attached to big vehicles. The Tahoe became especially popular in suburban areas where families needed room for kids, sports equipment, road trips, camping gear, or towing trailers and boats. One thing Chevrolet understood very early was image. The Tahoe wasn't marketed as a hardcore off-road machine like the Wrangler. It also wasn't positioned as a luxury SUV like a Cadillac Escalade, even though they share similarities underneath. The Tahoe was designed to sit perfectly in the middle, rugged enough to feel tough, comfortable enough to feel premium, practical enough to justify the price. That balance is the entire reason this SUV became so successful in the United States. You'll see Tahoes everywhere in America. Airports, highways, school pickup lines, police fleets, government convoys, construction companies, luxury neighborhoods, middle-class suburbs, literally everywhere. It became one of those vehicles that blends into American culture because it can do almost everything reasonably well. One of the biggest reasons people buy the Tahoe is simply the driving position. This sounds simple, but it matters more than people think. Sitting high above traffic changes the entire driving experience. In a Tahoe, you feel dominant on the road. You have visibility over smaller cars, you feel protected, and psychologically, it gives many drivers confidence. Older buyers especially love this feeling because entering and exiting the SUV is easier compared to low sports cars or sedans. And once you sit inside a modern Tahoe, it becomes obvious Chevrolet spent serious money improving the cabin quality over the years. Older Tahoes from the early 2000s were durable, simple, and practical, but they definitely felt more like trucks inside. Hard plastics, basic dashboards, simple technology. They were functional more than luxurious. But modern Tahoes, especially from the newest generation, completely changed the game. The interior now feels significantly more upscale. Large digital displays, premium leather options, soft touch materials, ambient lighting, improved sound insulation, massive panoramic screens, heated and ventilated seats, wireless Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, advanced cameras, adaptive cruise control, and high-end sound systems transformed the Tahoe into something much closer to a luxury SUV than people expected. And honestly, this is where the Tahoe starts becoming complicated. Because yes, it can absolutely feel luxurious. Some trims genuinely feel premium enough to compete with luxury brands. But at the same time, the price climbed dramatically over the years. A fully loaded modern Tahoe can easily reach luxury SUV territory in terms of cost. That's why the title luxury or just expensive actually makes sense. Because depending on the trim level, the Tahoe can either feel like a fantastic value or like a giant expensive truck with leather seats. The engine lineup is another major part of the Tahoe story. Chevrolet has historically offered multiple powertrain options, and American buyers love having choices. Older Tahoes became famous for their V8 reliability. The classic 5.3-liter V8 earned a reputation for durability and simplicity. Mechanics across America know these engines extremely well. Parts are everywhere, and maintenance tends to be straightforward compared to European luxury SUVs. That matters a lot for long-term ownership. Some older Tahoes from the early 2000s are still running today with very high mileage. That durability helped build trust in the nameplate. Modern Tahoes still continue the V8 tradition, but Chevrolet also adapted to changing market demands. The newer generations offer the 5.3-liter V8, the larger 6.2-liter V8 in higher trims, and even a diesel engine option that surprised many people. The diesel option especially became popular among drivers who spend lots of time on highways because the fuel economy improves significantly compared to the gasoline V8 models. And this is one area where the Tahoe often shocks people. For such a massive SUV, highway comfort is genuinely impressive. Long-distance driving in a Tahoe is incredibly relaxing. The suspension absorbs road imperfections well. The seats are wide and comfortable, and cabin noise on newer models is much quieter than older generations. The independent rear suspension introduced in the newer Tahoe generation was a major turning point. Older Tahoes used a more traditional setup that worked fine for towing and durability, but the newer suspension dramatically improved ride comfort and third-row space. That change alone made the Tahoe feel more modern and family-friendly. The third row is now actually usable for adults, which wasn't always true in older full-size SUVs. Cargo space also improved significantly. Families who travel a lot absolutely love this. You can fit luggage, sports equipment, coolers, strollers, tools, camping gear, or basically an entire family vacation setup without struggling for space. But of course, there are downsides. And anyone pretending the Tahoe is perfect is either lying or trying to sell one. The first obvious problem is size. In America, big SUVs are common, but even then, the Tahoe is large. Parking this thing in crowded cities can become frustrating. Tight parking garages are annoying. Narrow streets can feel stressful. If you're coming from a sedan or compact SUV, driving a Tahoe initially feels massive. Some people love that feeling. Others hate it immediately. Fuel economy is another reality check. Even though newer engines became more efficient, this is still a heavy body-on-frame SUV with large engines. You don't buy a Tahoe expecting price-level efficiency. The diesel version helps, but most Tahoe buyers accept that fuel costs are part of ownership. And honestly, for many Americans, the comfort, capability, and road presence justify the trade-off. Especially for buyers who tow boats, trailers, campers, or carry large families regularly. The towing capability itself is one of the Tahoe's strongest advantages. Properly equipped Tahoes can tow serious weight, making them extremely useful for people with boats, trailers, jet skis, or work equipment. This practicality is one reason the SUV remains popular with older buyers in rural America and suburban families alike. A Tahoe can comfortably handle road trips while also functioning as a utility vehicle when needed. Another thing people often underestimate is how much Chevrolet improved the technology. Older Tahoes were never considered tech leaders, but newer models now include massive touchscreen systems, advanced driver assistance features, multiple cameras, lane keeping systems, blind spot monitoring, adaptive cruise control, rear pedestrian alerts, parking assistance, and even semi-autonomous driving features in some trims through GM's Super Cruise technology. For a large SUV, that technology integration is impressive. And older buyers especially appreciate features that reduce driving stress on long trips. Now, reliability is where opinions start getting divided online. Some owners swear the Tahoe is one of the best long-term SUVs ever built. Others complain about transmission issues, electronic problems, or expensive repairs on newer high-tech models. The truth is somewhere in the middle. Older Tahoes earned stronger reputations for simplicity and durability because they had fewer complicated electronics. Modern Tahoes are more luxurious and advanced, but naturally, more technology also creates more potential failure points. That's true for almost every modern vehicle today. Still, compared to many luxury European SUVs, the Tahoe often remains cheaper to repair and maintain long-term. Parts availability is excellent in the United States, and nearly every mechanic understands GM platforms. That's a huge advantage for ownership costs over time. If something breaks on a Tahoe during a road trip in rural America, there's a very high chance parts and service are nearby. One area where the Tahoe absolutely dominates is family usability. Large families love these vehicles because they genuinely solve daily problems. School pickups become easier. Road trips become more comfortable. Kids have space. Adults have space. Cargo fits easily. And passengers don't feel cramped. That practicality explains why so many Tahoe owners stay loyal for years and buy another one later. Once families get used to the space and comfort of a full-size SUV, downsizing becomes difficult. And then there's the image factor. The Tahoe has a unique reputation in America. It looks successful without looking overly exotic. It feels powerful without trying too hard. It's expensive, but it doesn't scream for attention like certain luxury SUVs do. That balance matters for buyers who want comfort and status without appearing flashy. For many middle-aged American men especially, the Tahoe represents stability, practicality, and success all at once. One of the most interesting things about the Chevrolet Tahoe is how it manages to appeal to completely different types of buyers at the same time. You can see a Tahoe owned by a wealthy businessman living in a gated neighborhood, and 10 minutes later see another one towing equipment through rural Texas covered in dirt and mud. That versatility is one of the biggest reasons the vehicle survived for so many generations without losing relevance. Most SUVs eventually become too luxurious, too expensive, too soft, or too specialized. The Tahoe somehow kept adapting while still feeling like the same vehicle people trusted 20 years ago. When you really analyze the Tahoe carefully, you start realizing that Chevrolet designed this SUV around American lifestyle specifically. This is not a small European crossover built mainly for city commuting. The Tahoe was designed for distance, comfort, cargo, towing, and long-term practicality. America is full of long highways, suburban neighborhoods, large parking lots, family road trips, outdoor recreation, and people driving hundreds of miles regularly. The Tahoe fits perfectly into that environment. Driving one across multiple states feels natural. You sit high above traffic, the cabin stays comfortable for hours, and passengers rarely complain about space. The newest generation Tahoe especially improved one major weakness older models had, which was ride quality. Previous generations sometimes felt too truck-like, especially on rough pavement. You could feel the body moving more aggressively over bumps, and the rear suspension wasn't always smooth when the SUV was unloaded. The newer independent rear suspension changed that dramatically. Modern Tahoes feel more controlled, more refined, and much more composed during daily driving. They still feel big, but they no longer feel crude. Chevrolet clearly understood that modern buyers expected more comfort, especially because SUV prices exploded over the years. And that's honestly where many debates begin. Because the Tahoe today is not cheap. A basic Tahoe already costs a significant amount of money, and once you move into trims like the RST, Z1, Premier, or High Country, prices climb very quickly. Add optional packages, larger wheels, upgraded interiors, advanced technology, and luxury features, and suddenly you're approaching premium luxury SUV territory. Some buyers look at the price and immediately ask the obvious question: why not just buy a Cadillac Escalade? And honestly, that's a fair question because mechanically, the vehicles share many similarities. The difference is mostly identity. The Escalade is designed to feel flashy and luxurious. The Tahoe feels more grounded and practical. Some buyers actually prefer that. They want comfort and capability without attracting too much attention. A Tahoe High Country can feel incredibly premium without looking overly aggressive or celebrity-focused. And for older buyers especially, that understated approach is appealing. Performance depends heavily on which engine you choose. The standard 5.3-liter V8 remains the most common option and honestly fits the Tahoe very well. It delivers enough power for daily driving, highway merging, towing, and road trips without feeling underpowered. The larger 2-liter V8, however, completely changes the personality of the SUV. That engine makes the Tahoe surprisingly quick for something this large. Acceleration feels strong, passing power improves dramatically, and the vehicle suddenly feels more alive on highways. It still isn't a sports car, obviously, but the 6.2-liter engine gives the Tahoe a level of effortless power that many buyers absolutely love. The diesel engine deserves attention too, because it became one of the smartest options in the lineup for certain buyers. People who drive long highway distances regularly often end up loving the diesel Tahoe because the fuel economy improves noticeably. Highway cruising becomes extremely efficient for such a massive SUV, and the torque delivery feels smooth and relaxed. It's not the fastest version, but for long-distance travel, the diesel setup makes a lot of sense. Especially for older drivers who prioritize comfort, range, and relaxed driving over aggressive acceleration. One thing Chevrolet did extremely well with the Tahoe is seat comfort. This sounds minor until you actually spend several hours inside the vehicle. The seats are wide, supportive, and designed for long-distance travel. Many modern vehicles chase sporty seating designs that look impressive but become uncomfortable after a few hours. The Tahoe takes the opposite approach. It prioritizes comfort first. Older buyers especially appreciate this because daily usability matters more than aggressive styling. The cabin also feels airy and spacious due to the large windows and upright seating position. Technology is another area where the Tahoe evolved massively. If you compare an older 2010 Tahoe to a 2025 model, the difference feels almost unbelievable. Modern versions now feature huge digital instrument clusters, large infotainment displays, wireless smartphone integration, surround view cameras, rear entertainment systems, adaptive air suspension on higher trims, advanced towing technology, and GM's Super Cruise hands-free driving system in some configurations. For a traditional body-on-frame SUV, the Tahoe became surprisingly advanced. Super Cruise itself deserves mention because it changes the highway driving experience completely. On compatible highways, the system allows hands-free driving under certain conditions, reducing fatigue during long trips. Some people still don't trust semi-autonomous systems, and honestly, that skepticism is understandable. But many owners who regularly travel long distances genuinely love the feature. It makes the Tahoe feel futuristic in a way older generations never could. Safety is another reason families keep buying these SUVs. The Tahoe's sheer size already gives many drivers psychological confidence, but modern models also include extensive safety technology. Automatic emergency braking, blind spot monitoring, rear cross-traffic alerts, lane keeping assist, pedestrian detection, forward collision warnings, and adaptive cruise control all help make the SUV feel safer during daily driving. And because the Tahoe sits higher than most vehicles on the road, visibility is excellent once you get used to its dimensions. Still, size creates challenges too. Urban driving is where some Tahoe owners start questioning their decision. Parallel parking can become stressful. Tight parking garages are frustrating. Narrow city streets require attention. Some drive-thrus barely feel designed for vehicles this large. If your daily life happens mostly inside crowded urban environments, a Tahoe can feel excessive. But for suburban and rural lifestyles, it feels much more natural. Maintenance costs also depend heavily on expectations. Compared to compact SUVs, the Tahoe is obviously more expensive to maintain. Tires cost more, fuel costs more, oil changes cost more. Repairs can become expensive once warranties expire, especially on higher-end trims packed with electronics and air suspension systems. But compared to luxury European SUVs, ownership costs are often more manageable. That's why many buyers see the Tahoe as a sweet spot between practicality and premium comfort. Older Tahoe generations still remain extremely popular on the used market for one simple reason: durability. Many buyers intentionally search for older V8 Tahoes because they trust the mechanical simplicity. Some of those older models are legendary for surviving hundreds of thousands of miles with proper maintenance. You still see early 2000s Tahoes on American roads constantly. That reputation built long-term trust in the nameplate. At the same time, newer models introduced more complexity. More electronics, more software, more sensors, more luxury systems. That naturally increases the possibility of issues over time. Some owners experience transmission problems, electrical glitches, or infotainment bugs on newer generations. No modern SUV is immune to that anymore. But overall, the Tahoe still maintains a stronger reputation for durability than many similarly expensive luxury SUVs. Another reason the Tahoe became so dominant is emotional attachment. Many Americans grew up riding in these vehicles during family vacations, camping trips, fishing weekends, road trips, or school activities. The Tahoe became part of family memories for millions of people. That emotional connection matters more than most companies admit. When buyers already trust a vehicle emotionally, convincing them to purchase another one later becomes much easier. The Tahoe also occupies an interesting position culturally. It became associated with authority and reliability in America because police departments, government agencies, and executive fleets used these SUVs heavily for years. Seeing Tahoes in official environments subconsciously reinforces the idea that the vehicle is dependable and capable. That image helps strengthen consumer confidence over time. And honestly, there's something satisfying about driving a full-size SUV that still feels unapologetically American. Modern automotive trends constantly push smaller engines, smaller vehicles, and extreme efficiency. The Tahoe still embraces comfort, power, size, and practicality without trying to become something completely different. It evolved technologically, but it didn't abandon its identity. Now, does the Tahoe make sense for everyone? Absolutely not. If you live alone in a crowded city and rarely carry passengers or cargo, this SUV is probably unnecessary. If fuel economy is your absolute top priority, there are far better options. If you want sports car handling, this isn't the vehicle either. But for large families, road trip enthusiasts, towing needs, suburban lifestyles, or buyers who simply love commanding road presence and comfort, the Tahoe continues making a strong argument for itself. And this leads to the final verdict. Is the Chevrolet Tahoe truly luxurious, or is it just expensive? Honestly, it's both. Modern Tahoes absolutely deliver real comfort, impressive technology, strong capability, and a premium driving experience in higher trims. But there's no denying the price became very high. The key difference is whether you actually need what the Tahoe offers. If you genuinely use the space, towing capability, comfort, and versatility, the SUV can absolutely justify its cost. For the right buyer, it feels worth it every single day. The Tahoe is best suited for people who value comfort over speed, practicality over flashy styling, and space over efficiency. It's especially ideal for older drivers, large families, road trip lovers, business owners, suburban homeowners, or anyone who regularly carries passengers and cargo, while wanting a vehicle that feels strong, safe, and comfortable. It may not be the cheapest SUV to own, but it continues proving why it became one of America's most trusted full-size SUVs for decades.